All right. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, greetings. Welcome to another episode of T-Crush Realty. I'm your real estate queen, and I hope you all can hear me. I am all right. Sounds like I can be heard. Sounds like I can be heard. So that's wonderful. Excuse me for looking down for just a second. I am just basically trying to make sure I can be seen and that I can be heard. Um, so with all that being said, I appreciate everybody that's viewing this video, everybody that has joined. Like I said, I'm keeping my word to have these Zoom meetings on Wednesdays at around 7 p.m. I know that right now it is way past that time because I had to come home and eat, and I was having a few technical difficulties getting this meeting going. Um, I am familiar with Zoom, you all, but I normally use StreamYard. So as you can see, my camera is also freezing up, which is another situation that I'm going through as well. So my apologies for that. I did try to hook up a different webcam, but it did not want to work. So we didn't come on here to hear all my atrocities with going live. We came on here to talk about real estate, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day today. Heute ist Mittwoch. Today is actually Wednesday, everybody. So, since today is Wednesday, just hoping that we are having a great, wonderful start to our week. I want to start talking about, realtors and distrust because realtors get a lot of bad misconceptions, from what I understand from the public. I have heard that a lot of people don't want to work with realtors. I might take my glasses off because I know there's a glare from the lights and stuff. Um, but y'all, these glasses are really helping my eyes because my eyes are so tired today. So I took the liberty of jotting down a few notes, you all, to address some things that I feel are prevalent when it comes to working with a realtor. So if you are thinking about working with a realtor, hiring a realtor, um, these are some things that I feel that are important. So make sure if you get a chance, you share this video. If I am giving you pertinent information, useful information, if you check out some of my other videos and you like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to do so. But let's go ahead and get to it. So being treated as a paycheck. So, and this is one that I can attest to because I know that whenever I've gone to like a car lot or I've gone like furniture shopping or I go somewhere, the last thing you want to do is feel like people are pouncing on you like a target, like prey, right? So a lot of times what I experience is when people come into an open house and we greet the clients, potential clients. They'll come in and, I like to have a conversation with them. And then eventually I'd like to get them to sign the open house sheet just to get some feedback on their thoughts of the open house. Kind of see where they are, if they are in the market. Sometimes people are not always in the market. They are nosy neighbors that like to come through. But I do like to capture their information, especially if, home ownership or a home purchase is something that they're interested in the future. What I've noticed is that a lot of times, and I used to do this my own self, y'all, so I'm just saying we all have done this a time or two. People will like write down their information where you can't read it. People will write their information like so that you can't legibly read what they're writing. As far as their name, they might give their name. They might give you their email address, but no phone number, or they'll give you a phone number and no email address. And then sometimes they'll give you like the junk email address because I think what the fear is for a lot of people is that because realtors are, and technically we're in the field of sales, salespeople, I guess, tend to be pushy, tend to be overbearing, and they may feel a sense of a sense of what I want to say, like urgency, or a sense of I don't know the right word that I'm looking for right now, but you get what I'm saying here. My apologies. I don't know why this camera keeps freezing. So they don't want to feel bombarded by the realtor. And I am not one that's going to hound anyone down. My motto in real estate, and I developed this motto a long time ago, is that I only want to work with clients that want to work with me. If we feel that we're not a good fit, that's fine and dandy. I'd rather to go through a transaction that I feel that it's going to be amicable on both ends versus having a lot of pushback from somebody that just is not a good fit. And so that's perfectly fine. But if you are serious, about your real estate transaction, it would be very helpful to leave pertinent information that's legible. And sometimes they'll let me take the information down for them. I'll ask them and they'll give it to me, and I'll just write it down on the paper myself. So that is one misconception, is that we're all pushy. Not all realtors are the same, you all. I can attest to that. I have seen some realtors that can be a little, I'm not going to say overbearing, but they are, excuse me, they are more assertive. Let's just say that they're more assertive than others. Now, also, another thing that I witnessed with one of my friends is when she was going through her home purchase, is that sometimes I feel like a realtor can fast talk a client. And so there's so much information that you're trying to take in that you may need that realtor to go over the information again. And there's nothing wrong with that, because after all, this is a major transaction. It's more major, in my opinion, than purchasing a car. So if there's something that needs to be explained, I feel that the realtor needs to be thorough and break the information down in terminology that can be understood by all parties involved. Also, not listening to the client's needs and or wants. I think that's very prevalent. We don't want a client to feel that they're not being heard, because if that is the case, then that client might, back out of the whole situation because they might feel overwhelmed. A lot of people purchase, real estate from an emotional standpoint. Not all, because there are investors that are not emotionally tied to a transaction, but there are a lot of clients that this could be their first time purchasing real estate. And so this is a very emotional time for them. I had clients in the past that were very emotionally driven. And, I really went above and beyond for them, to hold their hand through the entire process. Another thing is rushing the client to make a decision. Now, we all know that in real estate, time is definitely of the essence. I must say that. However, we also have to take into account that this client needs to factor in some things, because this is all coming at them so fast. They don't want to hurry up and put an offer on a contract quick, fast, and in a hurry. They have to feel right. Some people have to sit with their decision, for the evening or for a couple of hours or for the weekend. Now, with all that being said, I have seen, in the market where a house will go up for that weekend, and the house is already sold by the time the weekend is over. So a lot of times, if a realtor is urging you to make a decision, it's not to pressure you. It's just to let you know that this might be a high demand market. This might be a very highly sought after home. There could be multiple offers, and if you want to have a chance at securing that property, you may want to go ahead and make a decision quicker than later, before the seller actually makes, a decision to accept an offer. So that could be another situation where there's distrust among realtors. We talked about this a little bit, not being thorough. So, throughout this process, there's a lot of paperwork involved, and it can be extremely overwhelming to the client because, again, some of these terminologies they haven't heard before. Some of the paperwork they may not understand. So it is our job to make sure that we go over this information so that you thoroughly understand it. And I make it a point to actually meet my clients and go over the paperwork before we even get into the transaction. A lot of times I like to have copies of the paperwork that they will be signing in the future so that they are aware of it. And these are just copies that they can keep for their own records in case they want to read through it at a later time. Also, material misrepresentation is definitely a thing in real estate where there is maybe some information that the realtor should have known and they did not disclose this information to the client. Now, if you can prove misrepresentation, then that is definitely going to be an issue. Which is something that can be reported to the real estate commission if you can prove that the realtor had, practiced material misrepresentation. And I'll give you some examples of what material misrepresentation is. So maybe you are a client and you are looking to make a residential home purchase, and they are actually going to be building a highway up the road or a railroad in that vicinity of that neighborhood, and you have knowledge of it. That's called noise pollution, and you fail to disclose that to the client. Or another example is if that particular home has some type of leak going on, a roof leak, some type of drainage issues, and you have knowledge of that based on maybe a prior inspection report, and you fail to disclose that information, that is considered material misrepresentation as well. Another scenario would be if the client specifically tells you that I want to live, in a community that will allow me to have a fence, and you find out that this community has an HOA and they may not approve fences in that neighborhood, but you can, consider this as, a property for that client anyway. That client moves into that neighborhood and find out you cannot put up a fence. They're going to be very irritated, and they're going to probably blame the realtor for not disclosing that information. So I'm going to turn this camera off because my apologies. This camera is freezing, so we're just going to use the webcam. My apologies. All right, so it's going to give you a different perspective. So here I am right here. You can see my light. All right, so let me go ahead because it's very distracting when it keeps freezing. I'll try to keep my focus right here so that I'm looking in the camera and so that you're not getting a glare from my glasses, okay? All right, another thing that we want to point out is not answering questions. So there could be questions that you have about the real estate transaction, specifically when it comes to the closing disclosure. And what is the closing disclosure? It's a CD statement that you receive 3 days prior to closing that allocates how the funds are distributed in that transaction. Well, what if the client has questions about this and you're not answering it? That client does not have to move forward if they are feeling unsettled about this CD or this closing disclosure. So it is your job to make sure that all of these questions get answered prior to closing. All right. So you may want to talk to that lender. You may want to talk to whomever prepared that closing disclosure to make sure that all parties are aware of how those funds are being allocated, all right? Because that's important to the client to understand how these funds are divvied up in this transaction. It is their money that they're spending. So let's go over not following up with emails, text messages, calls, or not showing up in person for the client. So there are realtors that do not actually take their clients to see properties. Sometimes they'll send them on open houses by themselves because maybe they have something else to do that weekend. I've seen that happen plenty of times where I was hosting an open house and a client will come in and they were represented by a realtor, but the realtor sent them out to the open house, or the realtor will send them out to new construction without them. And sometimes it's because that new construction community might be 30, 40, 45 minutes to an hour away, and they don't feel like driving that far out with the client. But you all, I'm one of the realtors that will drive that far with the client because I want to make sure I am present at all times as much as possible. Now, we can't control everything because sometimes clients will go and do things without you, without your knowledge. You don't even know anything about it. But for the most part, I think it's very important to be there for support in case they have questions, concerns, and so that they can have representation at all time, especially in a new construction community, you all. Then there is the old car rules that we all go over in real estate school, which is called obedience. So we have a due diligence to be obedient to our client, right? Then there's loyalty. So we have due diligence to be loyal to our client. And then there's disclosure. So we have the due diligence to disclose the factors that I was telling you about earlier. If there might be something wrong with that home, or we have a sneaking suspicion that something isn't right, we have, the fiduciary duty to disclose that to the client, whether it's the buyer or the seller. Accountability. So we need to be accountable for our actions in the transaction. We need to make sure we're orchestrating everything according to plan in that transaction to make sure we have a smooth transition to the closing table. And then also we have to act with reasonable care and due diligence in that transaction. So making sure that we're making reasonable and feasible decisions with the client, making suggestions with the client, making sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. And then, of course, a lot of realtors are not going to tell you this, but you're basically putting the interest of the client above your own. So you're not trying to push the client into a specific home because this community is offering a realtor bonus, or this community is offering a 4 or 5 or 6% commission. It is not okay for real estate commissions to be displayed in the MLS. That is a new real estate commission rule. So there are other ways that realtors can see what that seller is paying as far as a commission is concerned, but we're not supposed to be driven based off of the percentage amount of the commission. So I feel like these are some reasons why the clients may have had a bad experience in the past, why they may have had some distrust with their realtors. Also, I've heard where clients, after they get into the home, things will go bad and start to break down in the house. And it would be up to that realtor to highly and strongly suggest a home warranty for that property. And if the client refuses that home warranty, then there is a disclosure, a form that we can have that client to sign stating that we did suggest this, but they declined it. And actually, that's something that our firm does do. Also, I want to say mortgage insurance actually covers catastrophic events that comes with the home if there are perils with the home, such as fire, flood, things of that nature. The lender is going to actually be doing research on that home to see if it is in a flood zone, and if that is the case, you will be required to get flood insurance on the house. Most insurance cover has like a fire peril in the provisions. Also, usually they cover like hurricanes and I think tornadoes. But you might want to just take a look at your homeowner's insurance and read over it yourself. But those things like natural disasters are usually included in your homeowner's insurance, and normally that's paid with your mortgage. It's included with your mortgage most of the time. So that should not be too much of an issue, but your realtor can recommend home insurance companies if you don't have one that you may think of utilizing. Also, having vendors that are very reliable, such as a home inspection company that that's going to do some thorough work for the client to make sure that they've actually looked at that home and inspected that home thoroughly, because that's what they're paying for. A home inspection can range from around three to usually they're like 500 to 585, $500, or a little more, give or take. A home inspection definitely should be suggested by your realtor, even if it's new construction, because you don't want to get into that home and just rely on the builder to tell you that everything is okay at the walkthrough. Because just please understand that the builder and everybody on that sales team is representing the seller, meaning the builder, even the people that work in the office, even the project manager, everybody that works in that community is working for the seller. So you really need someone to advocate for you as the buyer, okay? So if the realtor negated to actually suggest an inspection, then that is another reason that there could be distrust with realtors. And then also I want to add this, you can also get a pre-drywall inspection when your house is being built. A lot of people are not aware of that either. And then you can also have a re-inspection done once the inspection has taken place, and you want to make sure that things have been addressed in that inspection report. So these are all the things that the realtor is going to walk through with you. The realtor is required to be at the inspection. There has to be a licensed realtor present at the home inspection. Just in case you did not know, you cannot go to the home inspection by yourself without being accompanied by a licensed realtor. Now, if your realtor is not available because they have to be out of town, something came up, it is not uncommon for them to actually commission another realtor to stand in their place for you throughout this transaction. I've actually stood in for other realtors that couldn't make it to home inspections, that could not go to showings. I had to show properties for some of my colleagues. And also, I've even gone to closing for one of my colleagues because she was out of town. She was not able to make it, just so that we could have, some support for her client. So you want to make sure that you're in good hands with whatever realtor that you are dealing with and working with. And then last but not least, I just want to point this out as well. If there's a realtor that is not licensed in another state, such as I was licensed in Virginia. A lot of realtors are licensed in South Carolina and, of course, North Carolina because we're so close to the state border. Say you are relocating to another state, such as Virginia. I am no longer licensed in Virginia. That is too far for me to drive. It's a 4-hour drive from here. I'm not going to be trying to navigate that transaction. But what I could do is, because I have a good rapport with some reputable realtors, a very well-known reputable realtor that I can attest for that have worked personally with some relatives of mine. What I will do is pass you off to that realtor and, as a referral, and say, hey, this is a client. Would you please take good care of this client? I know that you have a great reputable reputation. I think that you will have a smooth transaction. And it is always up to you, the buyer or the seller, if you want to work with the realtor. You don't have to, but if that realtor comes, highly recommended, and we already have a rapport, then chances are you're in good hands versus just going out here by yourself, not knowing anybody in that state, and just working with any random realtor that there's no rapport with. But if there's already rapport established, because that realtor is going to want to keep more clients coming to them, they're going to care about how they treat you as a client. So I think that is also very important. You don't want to pass someone off as just another number, because I have felt how it feels to go to like a car dealership, even though a car is not the same as a house, but it's similar. You don't want to feel like somebody's trying to fast talk you into making a purchase, fast talk you into filling out information, fast talk you into a transaction, because that's going to repel you from even wanting to go through with the whole scenario in the first place. And y'all, everybody does not move at the same pace, especially if, you're the type of person that likes to think about things before you move forward. If you like to do research, that is certainly fine. But if you have questions, then that realtor should be available to answer your questions in the entirety of the question that you ask. And if they don't know, what they can do is, because we have a team of reputable experts that have been in the business for many, many years, we have so much support around us. We have real estate attorneys that are very disposable to us. All we have to do is make a phone call, send an email or a text message, and we can get your answer. We can get the answers that you need. So if these things are what you're looking for in a realtor, then hopefully that is something that the realtor is providing for you. Good service, good quality service, and just, treating you how you want to be treated. Okay. Now, those are all the things that I think of off the top of my head. If you think there's anything that I missed, let me know. Let me know what your experience was with the realtor. Did you have a good experience with your last transaction? If yes, let me know. Type it in the comment section. If no, if yes, I would like to know either way. What could they have done to make it better, you all? Because this is a learning industry. Everything changes so often. Real estate law changes like every year. We're constantly having new forms that we have to go over. Different procedures are put in place. So yeah, I'm definitely open to, like, from the client standpoint, what are some things that you look for in your realtor? And, how was your last transaction? I definitely would love to know. And if you are looking for a realtor in Charlotte, you can, feel free to reach out to me. Again, my name is Tanita Gresham, T Gresh Realty. I'm out here in the Charlotte area, Charlotte and surrounding, because I've sold in Albemarle, not Salisbury, but it's close to Salisbury. It's like an hour from Charlotte. The Palisades, Concord. So transactions all over, not just Charlotte. Could be a 45-minute drive to an hour away, but that's what I do for my clients, you all. So that is it. I hope you all enjoyed, these tips that I went over as far as, what to look for in a realtor, the distrust that may go on out here in the industry, why we get a bad name. People don't trust us. They feel like we're sales agents, just like used car salesmen, but that is certainly not the case for all of us. Purchasing a house is a real big thing, and we want to make sure that you enjoy the transaction while we're going through it. I want this to be an enjoyable experience for you, whether it's buying or selling. Because it can be stressful. You have money on the line, and not just a little bit of money. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So definitely you want to make sure you're in the right hands when it comes to these transactions. Also, I'm going to always say be the CEO of your financial future by creating economic ownership. CEO, create economic ownership by owning real estate and owning a business, you all. Yeah, and that's it. That's all I can think of. Stay tuned for our next Zoom meeting on next Wednesday with Real Estate with Tanita. Um, I will try to send out the Zoom links as much as I can, but just, stay tuned for next week at around 7 p.m. My apologies for starting late, but I'd rather start than not start at all, okay? So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, you all continue to grow your financial portfolio and your financial